This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle, TGI Sports Talk. Are you serious? I'll be joined by my co-host, the Mad New Yorker, Carlos Chavez, in just a few minutes. Welcome, everybody. It's going to be a frigid day and night here in upstate New York. Hopefully it's warmer where you are. We'll be talking today about, we'll review last week's games a little bit. Not a lot to, there was a couple of good games, but you know, we had some controversy in Cincinnati. We had a brain fart by Derek Carr. A blowout in Orchard Park. Patriots didn't look good. Just not a lot of good football last week. We had two good games, I would say, and then the rest were kind of blah. But we'll look at all of that. We'll talk about this week's games, which I think the matchups are very intriguing. Should be a lot of fun. Some teams that have some good history together. And if we get a chance, we'll chat maybe a little bit about some of the coaching issues. I want to welcome all the Roku viewers who will see this later this morning. They'll see it at noontime on Friday, and will be followed later by Let's Talk New York Sports on Roku with myself. Actually, Dan Harris hosts that show, and I am the co-host there. After that, it'll be Sports Scopes with Robert Butler. Let's Talk Sports again. The Big Shaw Sports Show is on later today, and much, much more. Don't forget to tune in and check out our college sports huddle, we'll call it for now. We've kind of morphed, and we're talking about football and college basketball on Wednesday nights, but that show's available on YouTube and Facebook to watch later. I'll be doing a vlog later today about the Hall of Fame elections, which we may get into on this show here in the next coming weeks. That election will be coming up soon. And then we got our Sunday Stream of Consciousness. So lots of stuff to watch, and we'll give you updates as we head toward each one of those shows. But with no further ado, let me get my co-host, the Mad New Yorker, into the studio. Good morning, Carlos.
Good morning, Keith. How you doing? Good morning, everybody.
How are you today? I hope
Happy Friday.
Your unit is back together, all in one place now.
Yeah, everything's starting to flow again. So
awesome. It's good to get life back to some sense of normalcy, right?
Always consistency is the best key right there.
Well, you know, I don't have young kids, but I know with young kids, it's with an old man like me, believe me, if I'm out of my routine, I'm a mess. So I can only imagine what it's like with younger kids. So
yeah, I was a mess before the routine, so trying to catch up.
Then the consistency is still there for you, I guess. So
yeah.
Oh gosh, Carlos. I mean, there's a lot. Let's see what we got here. Oh, that's a private message. Who's that? Oh, that's Carlos.
Yeah.
Let's see. So anyway, let's jump into last week's games before we get into this week's games. Again, as I mentioned, you know, some of these games were hard to watch, to be honest with you, including my beloved Patriot game. Just some ugly games. And we'll dive into each one, but just give me an overall thought. What are your thoughts overall about last week's games?
Well, we were here last week talking about the games, the spreads, and who was going to win each, and I was on all of these games. I was kind of like not making a good pick because I wasn't sure how I was going to turn up. And then watching them, I was kind of happy I didn't make any picks, but I was kind of, you know, as a fan who watches football, you know, I have my favorite teams, and if they're not in it, that's okay. But, you know, some of these games weren't that good of a watch, you know, and that's not good. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, we're here in the second round. We're going to see what's going to happen with some of these teams coming up. But it just didn't feel like some of these teams should have been even playing a playoff, you know. So,
yeah, the expanded playoffs, in my mind, I mean, to me, we're never going backwards, right? But
right.
This is where we ought to be starting the playoffs with the teams that are matched up this week. And again, I know I go back too far in time sometimes because I'm old, and that's just what I do, guys. Sorry. This is where we would have been. 4 teams in each division, or I'm sorry, each conference. Those are the best 4 teams. That's who should be playing. I'm tired of watching teams that are 500 or just above 500, in some cases below 500 in the playoffs. And, because of TV, they'll probably continue to expand, which I just hate in general.
I know, like Bill and some of those guys who were razzing me the other day, which is all right. But, even if you're not watching the game and you're looking at the scorecards and you're picking up on the analytics, you're going to see some of these games that kind of, even though they were off, you see some of the things that happened during the game. And if you look at the paper and you look at what the Raiders did, for instance, against the Bengals, it looked like they should have won that game on paper, right? Because they have more rushing yards.
Well, that's why we talk about you got to watch the game,
right?
Right, to really get a feel, right?
Yeah, but if you don't get the opportunity to watch the game and you're reading it on paper, you're thinking, how did the Raiders end up losing this game? And then you really have to watch the game. So, but on paper, the Raiders should have beat the Bengals, and if you watch the game, it was totally opposite. That call, was it something that affected the game or not? And to my opinion, and I'm I already know what your opinion is whether they made that call or not. If you're not going to score more than 27, 30 points, man, you're not going to get a playoff win.
Right.
And that's the reality, and that's the way football should be. And some of these blowouts, they were just I'm just unwatchable. And I feel bad for the fans who supported some of these teams whose teams didn't do that well. And to be honest with you, even you as a Patriot fan, you didn't want to see that team the way it was on the playoff game. You wanted to see the Patriots the way they were during the regular season, right? I would have liked to see. I don't like Mac Jones, but I would have liked to see him throw the ball at least 30, 40 yards and make a play or two. And that's not what we saw, No. So, and that's where I stand on that situation,
Yeah, to start, I guess, getting into the games a little bit, and we'll start with the Bengals. And since you brought up the whistle controversy, I'll repeat my opinion. I understand the rule, and by rule, that play should have been ruled dead. And for New York, for that to go to replay, and New York say they didn't hear a whistle, I don't understand when everybody watching the game heard the whistle in the replay anyway. But so by rule, this should have been brought back. You're right. The play itself didn't affect the game because guess what? When that whistle blew, it wasn't in the guy's. I'm sorry, they didn't say they heard the whistle blow. They said they saw the ball in the guy's hands when the whistle blew, which isn't correct, but it was almost to his hands. And nobody slowed up on that play because they heard a whistle and it affected the game. So maybe they should make that a reviewable thing. But to me, again, you can't let referees beat you anyway. Right. That's if you've heard me long enough, including my team, there's bad calls, and I'll complain about bad calls, but I will never say I lost a game because of a bad call ever.
Yeah, don't hang your hat on the bad calls. Hang your hat on the fact that you didn't play a good game, or you didn't finish the game out the way it should have been.
And you can't put yourself in a position to get beat that way.
And the Bengals, 31 years. Congrats to them, but that game was way too close.
Well,
for all the talent that they had on that field, and to say that they won that game, it wasn't a sure win. They played it to the last whistle, and that's not going to be good enough for the next round, man.
No, and I'll give the Raiders some credit. They played really well on defense. They made some plays on offense until they needed to make a big play, which we'll get to in a second. And the one thing I'll take away from this game for the Bengals is good teams find a way to win when they don't play their best.
I'll give you that.
A way to win this game.
Right. That's a perfect sentiment. Great. Again, kudos to the Bengal fans, to the team. But again, you can't take that. You have to add that to your repertoire, but that cannot be your mindset and your mentality going in to play the Titans. It just can't. So, we're going to see what happens this weekend, right?
Absolutely. And again, and we'll get to that later, but I give the Bengals a good chance this weekend. They've got to, as you said, play better. Now, one other thing on this game before we go away, and I know we've had a difference of opinion on Derek Carr, but what you saw at the end of the game is my exact problem with Derek Carr. And part of it was a play calling maybe, but I'll just go to the very last play.
Right.
Whatever you do there, the ball's got to go to the end zone. I don't care that he failed. I have a problem with the decision making at the clutchest moment in the game, when the Raiders had a chance to win that game or tie it, whichever it was, win it, right? No, they could have won it if they went for 2. But he throws the ball, to the 2-yard line with 2 guys draped all over there. Even if he completes the pass, it's not going to be a touchdown.
Right. So, and you got the best quarterbacks in the NFL to compare him to Aaron Rodgers and even Tom Brady. But, he hasn't won with the Raiders, right? He doesn't have that. He has the it factor, but he doesn't have the winning mentality. He doesn't have the winning edge, right? And that's going to be his problem moving on from the Raiders. If he moves on, is as a team willing, or are they going to surround him with more, right? Because he could take the game on and maybe win it, but maybe 1 out of 5 games. He's not going to do it every single game. And that's one thing that that might be a difference maker to a team who has more tools to surround him with, right? I like Derek Carr. I said it before. And I like how he plays. He has the it factor, but winning mentality is different than the it factor.
No,
because
everything you're saying there's backing up my argument, right? It's about what you do in the clutchest moments in the game, and I have got to see that from him. And in fairness, that's his first shot on a big stage. He didn't play when the Raiders made the playoffs the last time. I believe he was hurt.
Right, he was hurt. Winning in the NFL in the playoffs gives you a little bit of edge. Gives you look, Matt Hasselbeck, for instance, right? When he was with the Seahawks, he got he got a little bit of an edge after that. You right? He didn't win the game, but he got a little tougher, right? Then people realized, hey, this guy can kind of win. We just got to surround him with tools, So you got to surround your quarterback with the ability with the tools and give him the ability to win the games.
That's a good comparison. Let's move on to the Patriots and the Bills. And Dave Guyette's here this morning. So good morning, David, and go Buffalo. He's a big Buffalo fan. Dave, I know I was dissing your team a lot last month and going into last week, but I said after that game, look at one of the most dominating performances I've witnessed ever in the playoffs. And I've watched a lot of playoff games. 7 possessions for 7 touchdowns, not even slowing them down a little bit. The Patriots defense has got some problems. I knew all along it was masked by some things they were doing and maybe the people they were playing and the way they attacked that defense. But Buffalo found every weakness they could find and they took the Patriots out of their game plan right away. They weren't going to let the Patriots run the football. Mac Jones, again, you look at numbers. Mac Jones' numbers don't look awful.
No, they don't.
But by the time, a lot of his numbers were in garbage time. Really, the game was out of control, and it was obvious after a couple of quarters, or maybe not even, that the Patriots were not going to be able to get in this game. So kudos to Buffalo for playing a complete football game on both sides of the ball, in my mind.
Yeah, they did a really good job. And when you saw them play with the first game, and the Bills just took time in possession, they ran the ball. You were hoping to see maybe the same thing go on, but the Bills just flipped the script. I mean, I didn't even think their running game was even going to get going because they got 3 running backs and the leading rusher is a quarterback. And, what they did was they went in there with some intensity. They went in there and just went to kick the doors down, and they pulled off a win. Hey, I'm not going to take it back. I've said that the Buffalo Bills are pretenders, and they didn't play like it, but again, they, like you mentioned, they played a Patriots team that had holes in their game, and they're not going to see that in this next game. And
Kansas City's got some holes on that defense, which we'll get to. But
right, but Kansas City's also been in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl a few times, so they're not going to see. They're going to see more intensity from another team that they didn't see from the Buffalo Bills. I mean, from the Patriots, So it's going to be a good game, but hey, you ride the wave and you see how far you can take it. But I don't think, again, the Buffalo Bills, they did a great job. But I don't think they're deep enough to make it past this next game.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I know I've busted your chops a few times about talking about the Bills being able to run the football here and there with Singletary, and I said they couldn't. Last week they just killed the Patriots, 170 yards rushing. If they get near that against Kansas City, they will also beat Kansas City fairly handily, but I don't know if they will or not. So we'll talk about that in a bit. So again, congratulations to to the Buffalo Bills fans. You're moving on to Kansas City.
Yep.
Careful what you wish for. Eagles and Buccaneers. I mean, I got one comment here. It was men against boys in this game in my mind. And you can see the difference when you got a quarterback who's been around for 70 years and won 7 Super Bowls against Jalen Hurts and that team who's, again, it's a young team, young coach. And it's really, so this group of guys, their first experience in the playoffs. So not unusual for this to happen, but this game was never close. I don't think it was even as close as a score. Any thoughts here?
I mean, again, like one of these games that's excruciating to watch. Like, you're expecting Philadelphia to go in there and as an underdog, put up a fight. But, and some of these guys blaming Jalen Hurts, even Robert, who talks about on Sportscope, he's like, what are you going to do with Jalen Hurts? Everybody knows his what he's not doing right, and they can tell that he's not going to be a good quarterback. I don't think that's necessarily true because he's still young enough, believe it or not, and he's talented enough to fix those mistakes. Him being in the playoffs, nobody thought that this quarterback were going to take the Eagles to the playoffs. They're putting in Minshew, thinking that Minshew would do what the other quarterback did when Wentz went out with Knowles. And hoping that Minshew would maybe do something, but Jalen Hurts is a decent quarterback. He's gonna be okay, and he's gonna need to go in the offseason and work on some of those mistakes. But he's not that bad. Look, if you had to pick between doing what you got to do for finding a new quarterback, or you got Jalen Hurts on your team, you're not at a bad start. He's not Daniel Jones. So,
well, I mean, that's still, look at he had a decent year this year. I don't know that he's better than Daniel Jones yet. I mean,
you got to be kidding me. I put him on the team before Daniel Jones, man. It's like,
and at least today or the day after and I'll put up Alan's comment, Hurts has been named the starter for 2022, but let's not forget, Alan or Carlos or anybody else getting excited about that comment. Let's remember that it's January 2022. Let's worry about this in September because a lot of things can happen, and I'm not sold that the Eagles think this guy is their future. But we'll see.
That's a problem with the Eagles management and ownership. They got to buck up. Are you gonna keep this guy on your team? And if not, you got to move forward, right? Because look, there might not be a lot of teams chomping at the bit to pick up Hurts, but a lot of teams wouldn't mind having him as a backup. To be honest with you. And this kid has a winning mentality. The only problem, some of the small things, they're fixable, and there's things that he has to do to fix them, right? And he's coachable, man. Right.
That's important. That's an important thing, and I'll give you that factor, right? He does appear to be coachable, and you know what? There's been a lot of guys who I didn't think were going to turn out to be great good NFL quarterbacks, but great might be in a stretch.
And my last tidbit. I'm not a big fan of Alabama and their quarterbacks, but someone like Jalen Hurts deserves another opportunity, and I think he'll do good for himself, to be honest with you.
Very good. Let's move on to the next game. And Dave, I saw you got a couple comments. I'm going to save your Bills comment for when we look at the Bills and Kansas City game, and your Brian Cashman comment. Bring up Sunday. We're not going to talk about the Yankees today, and I don't know that Brian Cashman has taken over for David Cohn in the booth, but I haven't read that. But bring it up Sunday. We'll talk about that for sure. Let's move on to, let me see, just make sure there's no other comment here. Alan did say what they need is a receiver that can catch. Well, you know what? Devontae Smith is pretty good, by the way. That Devontae Smith, I think, broke the rookie record for receiving yards and receptions, maybe. So I'm very high on Devontae Smith. So if Jalen Hurts or whatever quarterback they get to play there, I think the Eagles have something going here. I didn't think they'd win 5 games this year. So.
Right. And another thing is, again, they went in there as an underdog, but no running game. They didn't start or even get to a running game. And they had Jalen Hurts on his back or running side to side on the sideline. So,
Yeah, let's move on to the San Francisco and Dallas game. This game was kind of ugly to watch. Comes up very small in this game. And listen, I've defended Dak Prescott to a lot of people. Kenny Gifford, who watches, he's a good devoted follower of this show, and And my other shows, he's a Cowboy fan who doesn't like Dak Jones. Well, he's a Packer fan, excuse me. He thinks Dak Prescott, is just not a guy who can take this team anywhere. I've defended him. I'm starting to have my doubts myself after watching this performance on Sunday.
Well, again, the weapons that he's surrounded with did not perform, and they didn't get a running game going. And I don't know what's up with Ezekiel Elliott.
That goes to the San Francisco defense too, probably.
Right. I don't know what's up with Ezekiel Elliott, and even Pollard didn't get a good shot.
Well, Pollard was banged up going into this game. I think that might have been the issue there.
You don't have a running game to set up the throwing game. You're not gonna do too well. And Dak, I'm not sure why he didn't run the ball more himself. To be honest with you, he wanted to stay in the pocket. He was looking to make big plays, and that hurt him. And to your point, there's a little bit of there's a little holes in his games too. But he's not a bad quarterback.
So there's been a lot of talk about Mike McCarthy being in trouble after this game. I think if a move was going to get made, it might have got made immediately. So I don't think they're going to fire, as impetuous as Jerry Jones is, and unless he's in love with somebody like Jim Harbaugh, I don't see him firing Mike McCarthy, even with this flame out in the playoffs.
No, I mean that team has, for the last few years, one of the best O-lines in the NFL.
Yeah,
but unless Zeke was healthy, that game and the running game getting started, that game was already in the negative. So you got to give kudos to Dak for even making it a game. To be honest with you, and that mishap at the end of the game, that has to much to do with coaching that it does with the player.
Well, there you go. Alan, who is a big Cowboy fan, mentions it all starts with coaching, which I talk about a lot. Mike McCarthy needs to go. Look, they're a better team but the same results as they had under Jason Garrett. So I don't know. Again, this is one that's a tough one for me. Jerry fires this guy. It's going to be to bring in, a big name. He's not firing him and hiring Dan Quinn as his,
This got a popular man, right? Dan Quinn right now.
He is, but it's not happening. I don't think.
Alan has a point too. I mean, you cannot expect to be going into a Super Bowl and being the number one penalized team in the NFL. Like that's not that. Agreed. That's a dream. That's a dream because your team has to have consistency, and they're consistently making bad calls and getting those penalties, man. And that's not good.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see how the 49ers hold up going into this weekend's game in Green Bay. So
that's a coaching problem with the offense and the defense. It's not just, it's not just like one. It's not something that can't be fixed. But man, what are you going to do? Who are you going to get to fix that? Your players are the ones on the field at the end of the day.
Yeah, before I move on, I guess, from this game, since we're talking about coaches and one of your favorite family trees, coaching trees in general, was on the winning side of this game.
Yeah.
So we have to give this team a little credit for the run that they're on and winning this game on the road. I know your feelings about anybody named Shanahan or ever connected to Mike Shanahan. I'm sure it goes back to. He's done a good job getting this team to this point and having a chance to get to the FC Championship game if they beat Green Bay on the road this week.
Right. So he did. You gotta give him his credit. He did what he had to do to rile up his team. These guys are banged up going into the next game. So this is where my issue lies with him. He doesn't bode well when he doesn't have a full roster of starting players. He doesn't have depth right now, so it's going to be interesting to see how he does this next game against one of his former neophytes, right? He's going to go against LaFleur, so we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, Alan, who certainly is not a McCarthy fan, he's right. He's got one Super Bowl with some pretty he's at least two Hall of Famers as his quarterback, so I can't argue that fact necessarily. And here's Kenny. Kenny's in this morning. Good morning, Kenny. Jerry Jones is in love with himself and thinks he knows best. I've said for a long time, Jerry Jones is the biggest problem with that team.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
As Jerry Jones hires a real guy to run the football operations, the Cowboys will now be a serious contender for the Super Bowl, and not until it doesn't matter who coaches that team.
Right, Keith, and I mentioned this even with Robert on SportsScope. Like the problem with some of these teams are the ownership, are the family ownership. Right, you have the Cleveland Browns that they have that problem with the owner. You got all these guys coming in, the Raiders that family owned businesses, right? And the nepotism is holding them back.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel bad for the fan base because they put in so much emphasis on like, oh, we're gonna make it. But you got these owners that, as much as they like football, as much as they love football, how much do they really know about? Look, I've always said Jerry Jones is a great businessman, right? And he knows football, Arkansas college football, when he won with Jimmy Johnson on that team. That's about it, right?
Wow.
And and you can, you can do whatever you want when you own a team. So kudos to him. He doing what he wants. But look at the effects of when you don't surround yourself with enough people who know about football. What he do with the Cowboys? He put his sons in administration. Like, it's okay to have one or two, but you got to add some more folks in there that know about football, man.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence. There's only 2 Super Bowls are with Jimmy Johnson, and not just Jimmy Johnson, the coach, but Jimmy Johnson, the talent evaluator, who brought all those guys in there. That was Jimmy Jones' input, not Jimmy Johnson, not Jerry Jones.
Yeah, and you could tell that was Jimmy Johnson because prior to that, what he did in Miami for the talent that he brought in, right? So that's you said it right there. You nipped it in the butt. Like, Jimmy Johnson is a football mind, and I don't understand how he went away from the NFL, ended up in the booth because he does a great job as an analyst. Yeah. Man, he could have made a lot of teams happy, man, because he's got a good eye and a good knowledge for football, man.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about him potentially going back there, but Jerry's just too much of a narcissist to let somebody else come in there and get any credit.
Hey, like I said, kudos to him. Dallas Cowboys, America's team, making a lot of money, but
let's not kid ourselves that Jerry Jones made Cowboys America's team. They were long before Jerry Jones ever bought that team. So that was NFL Films. You can thank for that. Let's move on to the Steelers and Chiefs. This game, in a lot of ways, I mean, it was closer in the first quarter than the Patriots and Bills, but after that, Pittsburgh gets a ray of hope with a fumble recovery and a touchdown by Watt. But after that, it was 42-7 the rest of the way, almost, and maybe in a way as ugly as the Patriots and Bills. This was an epitome of, Ben's done. This was his last game. And it's too bad he couldn't go out with the victory that he had against the Ravens, because this is a bad way for, a really good football player, a great football player. He's going to make the Hall of Fame. I'm not a big Ben Roethlisberger fan for a lot of reasons, not necessarily his quarterback, though, played. There's been no tougher guy playing that position probably ever in the history of the game. But sad way for him to go out. But the Chiefs are starting to get it together.
Right. And then, look, you see the epitome of the Steelers and what – they've done a great job. They have a lot of youth on that team.
Yeah.
This is their first team with all that youth that's made it this far to the playoffs. And unfortunately they didn't perform because, they're young. They've never been in that spot. Like, you didn't see the running game that you saw, in the beginning of the year. You didn't see the dink and dunk throws by Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah. You saw a Kansas City Chiefs team that came ready to play and that did not want to be exposed, right? And knew that they had a quarterback that they could control, keep him in the pocket, and being able and knowing that he don't have the legs to make any plays. But Kansas City, don't kid yourself, because you're gonna play another game, and that quarterback, he's a little bit, he's younger and he's got an arm and he can run. So
no, they still, people have counted Kansas City out a few times this year, and they're playing as well as anybody in the AFC right now. It's going to be a good game this weekend in Arrowhead.
But for Pittsburgh Steelers fans, they should be happy with the team. With Watt and Hayward, they just got to get a couple more players in there, and they're going to be okay. They need another O-line. They need to solidify the O-line. There's no quarterback on this roster, so it's very important what they do in the draft or in free agency, because there is nobody to play quarterback on this team right now. Right. You have 2 more linemen, and then even maybe bring in a fullback, man. You got you got Najee Harris over there that he can run the ball, man. So you just got to make him the space, and you have to have you be able to throw the ball as well to for that to happen. So that quarterback was the missing key in this game for sure. Like to even start to put points on the board, right? Because you can't expect your teammate to score all the points,
right?
You know.
Well, let's move on to the last game before we get to this week's game, and that's the Cardinals and the Rams had to play on Monday night, which, first of all, making any of these teams play a playoff game on Monday night and have I don't care if it's a day short or fortunately didn't make them play on a Saturday. I don't know how they could have, but there should not be a Monday night game during these playoffs. It's not fair to those teams to have a shorter week of preparation than the team they're going to play.
Yeah, but both of these teams, I don't know if it's right to say shouldn't have been in the playoffs, but
the Rams played well enough this year. They're 12-5. This isn't a bad football team. Arizona was also 11-6, but they had a horrible run at the end. I think they were 1-4 to finish out the season, and a lot of injuries. But everybody has injuries, and you figure out a way around them. This is another one that, as great as Kyler Murray is, and the job that Cliff Kingsbury has done, I don't know that either one of these guys are the type of coach or quarterback to put a team over the top and win a Super Bowl.
Listen, if you're a Cardinals fan, you be proud of the fact that this young group, made it this far. Nobody put anything on Kingsbury to maybe even win this game. They didn't trust him because he's young, he's coming from the college ranks, and then you have Kyler Murray. They're like, is he gonna make it one of the best games of his career? And to that, the Rams did a good job in setting up themselves. The defense did a great job. They could have done a little bit better on the offensive end, I think, especially with the talent that they have. They should have scored more points. In other ways,
Yeah,
but the defense came in
27 points, but
I'm saying like they could spread the ball around a little bit more. But Matt Stafford finally got a win in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'll give him that. I've bashed Matt Stafford a lot, Matthew Stafford. He played well. He had almost a perfect quarterback rating.
Almost, right?
For sure. So that's good. The running game now with Cam Akers remarkably coming back this season after the injury that he had. Nobody comes back in the same season for an injury. Very productive in this game. Sony Michel's played well. Expatriate has played well here down the stretch. If they can run the football the way they did, I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't believe they're going to beat the Bucs this weekend. But
the OBJ finally got him a touchdown. So.
Yeah. It did shut Mark Mancini up for a little bit because he will bash everything in LA. But
I want Mancini. You can't just buy a team and expect them to be in a Super Bowl. But the Rams, they put it together when it counted.
I think McVay's a good coach, and I really do. But again, this team we're going to find out. We'll find out how good a coach he is. If he's really a good coach, he probably goes in and can beat Tampa Bay this weekend because he's got the younger team.
Yeah, he's got the younger team. Yep.
And he's got a good, talented roster, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this game. Let me just see. There's a couple of comments here. I think Kenny must have been talking about. I think this is back when we were talking about the Steelers and the.
No, I'm not even a Steelers fan. I'm just glad
the fullback. Most runners are the size of full. I don't know if they're the size of fullbacks.
That's not true.
I don't think that's actually true. But unless you're Derrick Henry, I mean, Derrick Henry's the size of fullback, right? But I mean, look at the Patriots runners. I mean, they're not the size of.
No. I mean, look, if the biggest problem is that the formations that these teams play, right? The tight ends. They bring in the double tight ends and do the blocking for you. And some of these guys aren't really good tight ends. They're good catching the ball, but they're not good blocking. So that affects the game a little bit when you're trying to do play action pass and things like that. So, I mean, Kenny might.
We're gonna get. Yeah,
I'm not sure what teams watching, but half of these guys are not the size of linemen. To be honest with you,
no, so, I don't think so. I mean, the linemen are just like humongous today. So
maybe he should buy a TV and watch the football, huh?
Well, I don't know if Kenny gets TV reception up there in the mountain. I'm not sure. You got rabbit ears, Kenny, or do you have they run the cable up there?
No, I mean, look. One of the game's differences today is the fact that there's not really a fullback on every team. I'm not saying you need one, but if you're gonna have that running game going, and you don't got a good tight end, or your tight ends are just catching the ball, man, just put an O lineman back there, put a D lineman back there, and just give your running back a little bit of help. That's all.
You do see teams do that, obviously.
Yeah, of course, yeah, because they don't want to put a fullback on the roster. But when you get a fullback that's good, that's played like on those run and shoot teams in college, you'll get better results, right? Because you got consistency. So
agreed. Well, let's get into this weekend's games because now. And the good thing is, I don't think weather's going to be a factor anyway. Maybe in Green Bay tonight it's going to be cold. I think 9 degrees with a little wind, so the wind chill could be 0 or whatever. I'm not sure, but every other game looks fine. I don't think weather will be a factor. But you got some nice matchups, and let's start in Green Bay. Well, let's start in Green Bay with San Francisco at Green Bay. Look, this is a team. There's some history between these teams in the playoffs, so there's going to be some fun there.
History doesn't bode well for Mr. Aaron Rodgers.
No,
for sure.
It doesn't. But I mean, look at Garoppolo's dealing with. I already have my issues with Jimmy G as it is.
Shoulder.
He's dealing with torn ligaments in his thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And the Packers are getting the weapons to me are just too much for you got Rodgers healthy. You got Jones healthy. You got Adams healthy. Now you got who's the fourth wide receiver? I'm thinking of coming back for the
guy he spoke up for. What's his name?
Well, the guy who went to Dallas and came
Cobb.
back.
Randall Cobb.
Randall Cobb. Thank you. So he's got him coming back healthy. So to me, there's just too much firepower on this Packer team to be able to for the 49ers to be able to score enough points or keep Packers off the scoreboard enough to win this game.
Here's my question to you. Is LaFleur going to push the gas pedal, or is he going to play mind games like his former boss and play mind games and keep this game too close? Because if he keeps this game too close on this nasty field.
Who's his former boss?
Mr. Shanahan himself. This field's going to be nasty. And it always is nasty because they have that field warmer thing, and they have the warming rods in the turf. This is going to be a kicking game. So whoever comes out with the best kicking game is going to win this team. Is going to win this game with that team. So,
and that's interesting because the last couple of years, the Packers kicking game, Mason Crosby's had some very inconsistent performances. He's been one of the better performers for a while, but he's in big moments. He has not come up really big.
On his home turf, too.
And by the way, the 49ers still have some, questions about who may play. I mean, Bosa's still, it's questionable whether he's going to play.
Concussion protocol, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think that they're outmanned in this game. And I do think the Packers will win this game. Allen's got it 31-23.
Yeah.
I think this game's going to be more like, I'm going to say 30. I'm going to say I'll give you the 31, but I like it 31-17. I think it will be 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, again, the weather is going to play a key factor in how these players are going to come out into it, and it's going to affect the field on how sloppy it's going to be. But again, if you're Matt LaFleur, you got a better defense coming out there and a better offense going on that field. You better make San Francisco wish they ain't never came up to Green Bay. You got to make a home stand count, right? And this is going to be his first game in a playoff, right? At home. So now you got to wear your big man bridges and show the NFL why you a good winning coach, because your division isn't that much, and you show people like me, show me that I'm wrong and that you can coach. That's all I got to say.
It's not his first. He had playoff experience last year, obviously.
Well, I mean,
in
this position, he wasn't in the same position last year.
Well, he was in a position to go to the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, he
didn't kick the football.
Right.
Last year he made. I think he just you can't make that decision he made at the end of the game last year and give the ball back to Tom Brady. It's a horse mistake you can make. He should have been going for a touchdown in that. And if you're going to lose, you lose with your best guy in the field, and that's Aaron Rodgers. So
my correction is he's playing his former boss, so he got to show up.
Oh, I got you.
That he's better than his boss. Like, he'd been in the playoffs last year. Look, to me, I don't think he's coach of the year and everything people saying that he is. Look, win the game, bro. You at home, you have the advantage. Everything's right in your favor. Put the gas pedal to the metal. Let's see a Green Bay attack, and let's say the Green Bay defense hold up and and get that win.
All
I'm
right.
not a Packers fan by all means, but if everything's on your in your favor, man, you got to make it count.
Give me a score. You got mine 31-17.
I think it won't be 31-27, man. It's going to be close.
Well, before I move on, I'll let Kenny have his say. He does have a TV, but the biggest thing I do is understand football. Running backs are 220. They're the size of fullbacks back in the 60s, Kenny, but not today. I mean, and tight ends do block. Good tight ends do block. I will give you that. And then putting a lineman in the backfield at 280 plus. How about 300 plus, really, in a lot of these cases? So.
Isn't he a Dallas fan?
No, Kenny's a Green Bay fan, actually.
Green Bay fan. Man, yeah, you talking about, wait a minute. You're going to tell me the tight ends block, and you guys have one of the worst blocking tight ends, maybe one of the best receiving tight ends.
He's done well.
It's like, no, I'm talking about Graham. I'm talking about Graham. Graham can't block.
Well, I don't disagree with that comment.
Like, come on, man.
Good teams have look, the Patriots have always had tight ends that block. One of the reasons for Tampa Bay's success is Gronk, even though he's not the player he was certainly 5 years ago, he blocks and helps in a running game. And on these jet sweeps that are now all the rage, right? The tight end blocking down can be huge on those plays. So
and the one of the things that is so bothersome is that you see some of these guys coming out of these programs and they're blocking in their programs, but they come in the NFL and they don't want to block anymore, man. Like, look, that's the reason you got rated high and got drafted into the NFL, man. Come make them blocks. It's like, come on, man.
By the way, to throw this out, Green Bay is a 5-point favorite at home, and I will be betting the Green Bay.
You betting this game? Woo!
Betting that game.
I'm telling you, Keith's gonna come down to the kicking game, man.
Well, maybe it'll be a 5-point field goal then, and I'll be all right. So let's go to the Rams at Tampa Bay. We'll stay in the NFC, and no weather problems here in Florida on Sunday at 3:00. Buccaneers are a 3-point favorite. Listen, I just don't think the Rams. Again, quarterbacks don't play against each other,
right?
But
that's true.
Last week, when I got Tom Brady on one side and Matthew Stafford on the other, there's no way I can pick against Tampa. By the way, I do, and in all fairness, and I do try to be objective, even though I'm rooting for certain teams. Last week, I got the Bucs 800 for 100 to win the Super Bowl. After that game, it went to 300 after they won that game. So I think Tampa Bay is going to win it all. Oof. And I think they handle the Buccaneers this weekend just because they don't have they got a few injury problems to worry about in the running game. Fournette's still questionable. Jones is questionable. Even Bernard's questionable. On the defensive side, David is questionable.
Got a lot of questions. Got a lot of questionables, man.
I cannot go against a Tom Brady-led team at home in December. I'm sorry, in January. And I just, again, it comes down to Stafford. I don't trust in a big moment. I think this will be a close game. I'm going to say this game. I'm going to call this game probably like 24-20.
Yeah, I think this game's going to be close too. The Rams stacked up their defense with Von Miller, and he hasn't really came to play. He came to play, and his name doesn't come up a lot. Hasn't really, and I think this game he might try to get his name out there a little bit more. But it's Tom Brady, man, and you better don't give him the ball in the last 2 minutes, man.
Well, that's the key. But that's what all comes down to. If you beat Brady, you got to beat him in the first 48 minutes of the game, not the last.
OBJ needs to just shut his mouth, get like 2 touchdowns, let Akers score a touchdown. Maybe get 4 touchdowns, and you'll be okay. But you're gonna start playing mind games with Tom Brady, you're gonna lose, man. He's a chess master.
Alan's right. I mean, if the Rams can get pressure on Brady early, because again, this is as great as Tom Brady is. He's like any other quarterback. You get in his face and make him think early, and get to him with 4 guys. You go all the way back to 2007 when the Giants beat him when they were undefeated. They beat the Patriots because they pass rushed and pressured him with 4 guys. If you're going to blitz him, he'll beat you all day.
Here's a problem. That game was still too close, and this is my team, and they won on a miracle. Look, you can hit Tom Brady. You can make him disgruntled, but you got to beat him. You got to put points on the score where he can't come back to catch you.
Yeah.
Right? That's the key. Do not allow him to catch up to you.
Yeah.
If you don't put those points on the board, this game's done, bro. Do not make it close. Do not make it close.
28-3 is all I got to remember to know that Tom Brady is not out of any football game anymore.
Never.
So, and the Rams, and this is how they'll win. Allen's not wrong, but I look at Tampa Bay and have got hit. They can protect Brady. Brady can take a hit. It's how you get to him. If you do it and leave guys uncovered, he will beat you eventually.
Yeah, man. And how is it? The older he gets, the faster he's throwing the quarter. He's a quarterback that's throwing the ball so fast. Like,
he's probably taking some kind of steroid.
It's crazy, man. Like, again, if you're the Rams and you're a Rams fan, you better hope your team scores a lot of points, like a ton of points.
I'll go back to Kenny's comment about Tampa bought a championship. Well,
they got Tom Brady. That was the smartest move ever.
They're doing it within the rules of the game, and that's how you have to do it.
Hey, and listen, people tend to forget that even if they got even with Tom Brady, they had a good squad already down there. It wasn't that Tom Brady comes in and he goes to some wretched Jets team or Giants team. No, he had a good squad down there.
Oh, yeah.
And that team that they had that was competing were actually like one of the okay divisions down there at that time, right? Because they had New Orleans that was good, Atlanta okay some years, and Panthers okay some years. But he competed and he won. So
Allen's got us in a. I didn't even look. I should have looked at depth chart. Graham isn't even in Green Bay. He's in Chicago.
No, I was saying for Ken, we talked about tight ends that at one point they had.
Oh, he was there, right?
Terrible.
The main guy.
Graham's in Chicago, but Graham's not a bad tight end. He's just not a blocking tight end for sure. No?
Yeah. Bob goes way back. He's a longtime Patriot fan like myself. He goes back to Russ Francis, one of the most underrated tight ends in the history of football. Great blocker, great catcher, and listen, he was a great athlete, Russ Francis, on some really good Patriot teams back in the 70s. Sorry, Bob and I are old. That's what else we got here before we move on to the next team. Packers are there, and Rodgers will do something stupid. Again, look at I get on the coach last year in that last series, but I still say if Aaron Rodgers on third down looks to his right, he walks in the end zone.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's a question that people ask about Aaron Rodgers. But 9 out of 10 times he runs that ball, man. Come on. Like, if anything bad happens to the Packers, it's going to be because they don't score enough points, man.
Yeah. Back to the Rams. Allen's got the Rams 27-14 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I'm a big fan of the rest of the way through the playoffs. There's money.
Allen. You betting that? Is he betting that game? Allen, are you betting that game?
I don't know. Maybe I'll take it and save the vig here. I don't know. So, with him. What's your pick? You didn't give me a score, did you?
No, I didn't. I don't know if I listen, man. Maybe 32-24, maybe? No, probably. I don't know. Maybe closer. I don't know. This game, when it comes to the playoffs, man, anything goes. And I know people don't like it that I try to stay clear, but I'm not betting on this game. But I'd like to see Tampa Bay win this game, and I'd like to see the Rams, because I'm not a McVay. I don't like McVay, so it's like he's from the Shanahan tree.
Yeah,
and I don't think they're gonna. I don't know. What you got? I
got 24-20.
That's not bad. Yeah,
Tampa Bay
27-21. I think 27-21, something like that.
That could be a score too, and I'd be happier with a larger cushion. Yes.
Yeah. But again, if the problem is LA, they need to go out there and just score. Just get out there and put as much as possible out there, because don't give Brady an opportunity to come back, man. If you want to win the game, right?
So. Let's move on to the AFC before we run out of time here. Cincinnati at Tennessee. Tennessee, the number 1 seed. Look, no better coaching job in the NFL than Mike Vrabel this year to keep this team without Derrick Henry for, 6 or 7 weeks, right? 8 weeks, and have the number 1 seed. Great job. Not a big fan of Ryan Tannehill. I think the key for not a big fan. In a big game, just not a big fan. If Henry comes back and is effective, it's going to be the key for Tennessee in my mind.
Oh.
With the Bengals, Trey Henderson, if he's healthy, I believe he's out of concussion protocol, but he's the key to their defensive line and stopping that run. So I think those are going to be two keys, whether Henderson plays effectively, and we know Henry's going to play and how effective he is after a big layoff. I like the fact that the Bengals found a way to win, as I said, without playing their best game last week. And Burrow, to me, is a better quarterback than Tannehill right now with a better weapon in Chase, who, if you watch the games, you look at his stats. You talk about watching games and looking at stats.
Right.
His stats don't look all that overwhelming when you look at the box score.
Got a bunch of game breakers.
He was a key cog in the Bengals winning that game last week.
He's good. No, he's great. He's good to watch. Great player and his wide receiver. I mean, they play together for a while, so they know each other, which helps a lot. And that was a questionable pick. A lot of guys were like, "Yo, why?" But it's worked out for the Bengals. But they got to go over a revamped Tennessee Titans defense. They picked up a few players later in the year. They're getting Henry back. The key to this game, I think, is that defense is going to be overzealous for the Bengals. If Tannehill gets about 30 to 40 yards rushing, and you add that to whoever runs the ball down there, whether it be Henry or Foreman, you're going to have they're going to win.
They just put it Cincinnati 28-21.
I don't know. A lot of people say that this is the worst rated team going into the playoffs or being ranked number 1 in the playoffs in Tennessee because of the losses that they had to Houston and to the Jets.
Yeah,
but I think they're gonna show out because of that, and I believe that the Titans are gonna win. I'm gonna keep it 21-17, 21. I mean, it's a low score for sure. I think.
Well, Alan and Kenny are both with me.
24-21.
His first overtime game of the weekend.
I probably take that score and flip it around.
All right.
No, I'm going for the Titans for this one.
It's again, I wouldn't be surprised to see either team win.
That's gonna be I think that might be the closest game of the playoffs this week.
I will likely take the points. The Cincinnati Tennessee's a 3-point favorite in this game, by the way. So we wrap up with might be a game of really good matchups. I think this is a great divisional round. This is my favorite round of the playoffs anyway, almost every year. It seems there's really good matchups here.
Yeah, I like that.
They were finishing up with the best one, the Bills at the Chiefs.
Hey,
30. The Chiefs are a 2-point favorite here. The Bills, as we said, dominant like I haven't seen in a long, long time. Partly because of the lack of effort put up against them on defense by the Patriots. But I can't take away from their performance and the way they ran the football. And if they repeat that even close on both sides of football, their defense has gotten better too. We keep talking about their offense, but their defense has gotten much, much better. And I just think they're going to give Kansas City all they can handle. Kansas City's got some injury concerns with Hill banged up. And I know Hilaire's back, but he's banged up. Williams, the running back, is banged up. I just think this is the Bills' time to get over that hump. Well, I know they were in the AFC Championship game last year, but get over the Kansas City Chief hump, let's say, and win this game.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you.
Killed them, by the way, early in the year.
The Bills have been the most inconsistent team that's like in this playoffs. I mean, they win 2 games, they lose 1. They win. It's like it's been up and down all year. I think it's going to be the same thing here in the playoffs. I don't know if they can get that running game going like they did last weekend. That's in the air. Who's going to step up if they can? You got Breida, Singletary. Is Allen? Are they going to let Allen run all over the place?
Well, that's the key. Just like last week, I told you, if you let him beat you with his arm, fine. But when he starts taking off on 30, 40-yard runs on third downs and just breaks your back and crushes your whatever your mojo, he just knocks you right down, and he does it time after time. And I think this is going to be a Buffalo win.
I mean, you're going against Kelsey and Mahomes connection.
I am going against Kelsey. Kelsey's starting to look a little like Gronk looked his last.
Yeah, I mean,
years
and the Chiefs. The problem with the Chiefs, if you're playing them, is that you might be up on them a couple points, but they're going to come back and score to catch up to you, and then they're going to beat you on the back end. Look, this is going to be a great game, good matchup, but I think the Chiefs is going to hold off, and they're going to make it to the next round, and they're going to play the Titans.
I'm going to call this game. Allen's got a 37-24 Bills. I'm going to call it 30. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go 38. 35. Whoa. Buffalo wins in overtime. I'll call this one in overtime. That's Allen's.
Whoa.
Kenny's got KC wins only if Mahomes plays within himself. Well, that's going to be the key for both quarterbacks, really. So give me
and look, you know what? I haven't seen Mahomes run the ball much like he did a couple years ago. He's staying in the pocket, looking to make plays. He can he'll run around side to side, but he's not running forward much. And this might be a game where he breaks it loose and runs forward.
He might. I mean, Holmes is really, he's sneaky. He doesn't run like Allen, right? But he can run the football, and he's sneaky doing it. I mean, I remember the game 2 years ago against the Texans where they got so far down. I think 24-0 they got down in that game. And he beat them as much with his feet as he did with his arm that day, because on third downs, he ran for a lot of big first downs, and he doesn't take big hits. Allen, the worry with Allen, in my mind, is he is so big and so fast. He just tries to run guys over. You don't see him sliding a whole lot. And
he head first. That head first is the problem.
Yeah. And he's just trying to get every last yard he can. Exactly. Mahomes is looking to get what he can get and then get out of bounds.
Right.
So. Again, I'm going to take this game 38-30. Is that what I said? 38-35 in overtime. Yes.
I'll flip it around. I like that score, but I'll flip it around.
Excellent. Well, before we have to wrap up here, Carlos, give us. We got a couple minutes. What? Anything going on with your blog or anything you want to kind of tell the fans about today?
Yeah, Man New York on Facebook, putting out a lot of different kind of articles and reviews of articles. And hey. This afternoon, the Giants are going to announce a new GM. It looks like it might be Sean from the Bills.
Yeah,
and if he comes to the Giant land, he might bring some of that staff from the Buffalo. Who knows? But
it could be Dabo if it's if he's a GM. It could be Dabo being the next head coach. And I suppose he's got to go the Brian Flores way. But we'll jump more into the coaches and whatnot.
That's the big news right now. That's what's on. Everybody tune in this afternoon. Check out the news because there's going to be a new announcement from the Giants for sure.
Excellent. Don't forget to get those blogs and share them to TGI Sports Talk too, so we can get some, cross promotion for your page over there at the Man.
And I'll be joining you with Mag and Jack and also with Dan later. So
woohoo! We're excited. We didn't get to do a lot of arguing today, so maybe we'll make it up later. So listen, thank you for coming in today. As always, Carlos, guys, everybody who has come in today and commented. Thank you. I love the way you guys help us with comments and keep the conversation flowing. So Alan, Kenny.
Yeah, stack up on your drinks and your snacks. Don't go to the bathroom. These are going to be great games this weekend.
Dave Guyette, good luck to your Buffalo Bills this weekend.
Good luck, everybody.
Good luck to your Packers. I know you think Rodgers will blow it, but good luck to him anyway. And because I think you're going to get Tampa Bay rematch next week in Green Bay. Guys, I'll be on with Dan Harris after this show on Roku at 2:00 with Let's Talk New York Sports. As I said, Robert Butler's on with Sports Scopes after that. And then you've got the Big Shaw Show and some other stuff coming on tonight. So stay on Roku and watch those shows. We'll see you next week. And I'll see you
guys
with a live stream of Consciousness Show. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football, guys. Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk, right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network.